How's it going, everybody? So we have a fun review today as we're talking Nosferatu. In a year where horror continues to really thrive, which makes me really happy as a big horror fan, what better way to conclude 2024 with a remake of one of the oldest horror classics? In the 102 years since Nosferatu came out in 1922, we've seen a lot of different interpretations of Nosferatu to this point. But once they said Robert Eggers was the one that's going to be writing and directing a remake of Nosferatu, how could you not be transfixed by that idea? Even with fairly high expectations heading in, Eggers completely blew me away with his vision for an updated version of this classic tale. In the years leading up to Nosferatu, Robert Eggers has made it clear that this is a passion project for him, and you can definitely see that pouring out onto the screen. He very much keeps the story intact that we all know, while cranking up the inescapable feeling of dread and pure evil at its core with its themes. From the very beginning of the film, there's this intensity to the story, and the nightmares that we witness these characters have to endure that you can't really look away from, in large part because the movie is shot so beautifully. It is kind of hard to describe, maybe you can get those kind of vibes from the trailer, but this interpretation of Nosferatu is this very interesting blend of terror and horniness, since the nature of much of the story in Nosferatu has a sexual element to it. If you have seen any of Robert Eggers' previous films like The Northman, The Witch, The Lighthouse, he has this impeccable vision behind the camera, and what he brings here with his direction adds to the breathtaking, immersive nightmares visualized throughout Nosferatu. In my opinion, this might be his strongest directorial effort yet, although I like all of the films he's directed to this point. There's a beautiful, almost hypnotic quality to many of the shots and how he frames them for an enhanced level of surrealism to the gothic imagery. Coupling that with some stellar production design, bringing this gothic period piece to life evokes perfect, chilling, atmospheric shots. There's a multitude of amazing shots throughout Nosferatu, but one of the big ones that sticks out to me is the sequence where they go and visit Count Orlok's castle, between the mixture of visuals and the haunting score. The sound design overall of Nosferatu really enhances the overall experience. It does a fantastic job enveloping you, making the terror feel far more powerful. Count Orlok definitely has some of the scary sequences in the film, as you would expect. Several of them got under my skin a little bit, plus all of the different things involving the rats. Everything revolving around the rats in the film. I'm forever changed from what I saw from these rats. For as horrifying and horny as Nosferatu is, I think overall the story is pretty beautifully crafted. The themes here are quite thought-provoking and rich in depth into the exploration of evil as a concept, and on the erotic side of things, female desire, and the ability to express that desire or not being able to. It's one of the more interesting recent examples of a film that tries to balance darker concepts with romance thrown into the mix. If we're gauging Nosferatu on the vampire horniness scale of films, I definitely would probably put this over Coppola's Dracula. If you've seen Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, you would know that's a pretty big deal. That movie at times can get pretty spicy. As for the cast in Nosferatu, I thought pretty much everybody in this movie was brilliant in how they anchored the film. There are some that deserve a little bit more spotlighting. Willem Dafoe, like always, gives it his all with another sort of unhinged portrayal to add to his extensive catalog of wow performances. What made me really happy about his inclusion, though, was the fact that, this isn't even his first time being in a Nosferatu film. If you don't remember, 2000's Shadow of the Vampire, where he played Nosferatu, Max Schreck, in this highly entertaining fictionalized version of the filmmaking of Nosferatu, where in that Count Orlok was actually a real vampire. Willem Dafoe actually was nominated for an Academy Award for the movie. One of several surprising performances in Nosferatu for me was Nicholas Hoult. I found him to be completely mesmerizing. For much of the film, he's constantly riding that line, being on the brink of sanity, having to deal with a nightmare-inducing arc with the horrors he goes through for the sake of love. It's a very chilling performance, but it isn't anywhere near as haunting as Lily Rose Depp. That is the performance here that probably surprised me the most. I mean, I don't have the greatest track record of watching stuff that she's in. Mostly what I know her from is The Idol, that very horrible HBO show, and Yoga Hosers, the Kevin Smith film. Here is the lead in Nosferatu. I had no idea she had this type of performance in her. I was stunned by the overall visceral nature of how she plays the character. It's extremely intense, the physicality asked of her and the places it goes. This type of fever dream of eroticism, the suppression of desire, and this type of intoxicating journey as she leans towards the darkness. It's certainly one of my favorite female performances of the year to this point, which I certainly didn't expect going in. By now, Bill Skarsgard pretty much has made a name for himself as far as transforming for his roles, and his transformation in the Nosferatu might be his best one yet. I swear, if you did not know beforehand that Bill Skarsgard was playing Count Orlok, you would not be able to tell. The prosthetics, the costuming, and the voice he puts on as Count Orlok, it's completely grotesque and bone-chilling. Not gonna lie though, I was kind of thrown off by by the mustache. I'll just leave it at that without giving too much away. You can kind of see it in one of the posters that he has a mustache with the side profile, so I don't want to make it seem like I'm spoiling anything about his appearance. But yeah, every single time Count Orlok appears, his presence commands the screen and is equal parts compelling and frightening. This portrayal of Count Orlok is far more evil and leans into the perverted romance of sorts. While Skarsgård's Count Orlok is used sparingly throughout the movie, there's this dark allure that lingers in the air whether he's physically on screen or not that makes his presence all the more intense whenever he does actually appear. And like I said before, he does have some of the most scary, intense sequences in the movie. It goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway, Robert Eggers has never been the most accessible filmmaker for mainstream audiences, whether that be The Witch, The Northman. All those movies, in my opinion, are pretty good, but when you think of mainstream audience appeal, it's not there. It's definitely a more niche audience. Arguably, Nosferatu is his biggest attempt yet to try and reach a mainstream audience. I mean, it's to the point where Nosferatu has a popcorn bucket. I mean, that's not something I ever thought we're ever going to see for an indie film from Focus Features. Now, though, if you've seen any of Robert Eggers' films, you would probably know whether or not he's your cup of tea. If you're watching a Robert Eggers movie, you know by now what you're getting. If you're a fan of period pieces, slow burn storytelling, and temper your expectations a bit on just how much you'll see Bill Skarsgård on screen as Count Orlok, I definitely think Nosferatu will be your jam. If you're somebody that's not a big fan of his previous work going into this, I would probably be a little bit more apprehensive. I don't think it's going to turn you off right away. I do think it's still a pretty good movie overall, but if you don't like Robert Eggers' style, I don't think this is going to win you over per se. All around, Nosferatu is a masterful, spellbinding horror experience that you rarely get these days. Robert Eggers gorgeously transfixes you with intense, beautifully crafted gothic terror that's bound to leave a lasting, nightmare-inducing impression that will linger long after watching. I do still think it's kind of odd that this is releasing on Christmas Day of all days, but I will be curious what everybody thinks about Nosferatu once you get a chance to check it out. Whether you go see it on Christmas Day or if you see a little bit before, a little bit after, share your thoughts down below. What did you think of Nosferatu? Did you like the remake? Did you not like the remake? Thank you guys, as always, checking out the videos. I always do appreciate it. Make sure you like on the video and also subscribe to the channel so update reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. But next time, I'll see you guys later.